Hello and welcome to episode 101 of the Local Code Campfire for June 9, 2023. So glad that you joined us. This is an event we hold every Friday, 10 a.m. Central Time this hour, and it's an all skill levels welcome meeting where we get together as a community, share techniques, challenges, experiences with Plantain App. We do appreciate it if you bring ideas and some suggestions or something to show. All of our episodes are recorded and put out on YouTube, youtube.com/PlantainApp, so do subscribe there. Our agenda today, and well, every week we do introductions and then we pick from around, we always do first call, but then we pick from a variety of other things. We look at our Campfire website, do feature requests, other things, and then after an hour or so we go into Afterglow where we turn off the recording just to get to enjoy each other a little bit as a community, talk off the record. So do engage with us, jump in, show and tell. You can use the chat window, but do engage. If you've got noise going on behind you, please mute. Other than that, just be nice. Somebody tell me though what I'm quoting when I say that. Anyway. You can submit questions and topics in advance. You can use this QR code or the links in the emails that we send to you. We did have one submitted in advance, and that was by Mark, and he showed up today. So, this was only 20 minutes ago he suggested it. So glad that you're here. Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Good
Yes,
morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Jen's here.
Good morning.
All right. So does anybody know the movie quote, "Just be nice"? Anyone? It's out of Roadhouse. Anyway.
Repeat the question, please.
The "just be nice" quote is Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse.
Of course. Of course. And then the second quote is, "I thought you were bigger." Remember that one?
Damn, that hurts. Okay. We'll not turn this into movie trivia every week, but hey. So first call, anybody got something going on you want to push to the front of the line?
Hey, Dale, Jerry, I just saw a notice that came from you about 1.25 and an upgrade. Give me about the 30-second review on what I should do about that, if anything.
Sure. So first of all, it's nothing to worry about, but it was the issue is this: the odometer rolled over from .99 to .100, and we had never anticipated that our app builder might get more than 100 revisions in a given version. So our update logic quit showing you hot fixes to beyond 99. And so that was unfortunate. So for the few of you who were using Plantain App 1.25 and at the high 90s, there's no way for us to get you that update. And so you just have to do a manual hot fix the old-fashioned way through DNN rather than us being able to hand you the hot fix on the hot fixes screen. There's no big emergency other than you won't see hot fixes because we have no way of getting them to you unless you update.
As we migrate from 1.24, let's just say we have a person that's a 1.24 user and it's time to migrate to 1.25, will that be handled automatically at that point because we'll already be past that revision 100?
It will. When you update from a prior version from 124 to 125, we you automatically get version 105 at the moment or something, which includes this hotfix. So not a problem. I know for you it was just your Rider SQL that was.
Yeah, I think I have one instance where I need to do that. Okay, and that's my test platform for teaching Rider, so we're all good. All right.
So and there's nothing wrong other than the fact that we just didn't anticipate we were going to have that many revisions.
It's Y2K all over again.
Exactly, with even more impact.
And I don't know that everybody on this call lived through that, but I certainly did.
Oh my. Yes, yes, I did.
Okay.
there anybody on this call that did not live through that?
I did not live through it. Just kidding.
Yeah, he was in liar rehabilitation at the time.
Yeah.
So that was a great question. Only a few of you got that notice because we only sent it out to people who were using 125 and at a version where they weren't going to catch this hot fix automatically. So if you didn't,
I
get
just
it,
upgraded to 125 on Wednesday on a test system.
Yep.
Did this happen just after that, or was this a prior problem? So the upgrade to 125 that I have, I don't have to worry about.
in theory, if you didn't get the notice, it's probably not to worry about. But on that test system, if you'll just look at the version of App Builder, and we'll find one here to take a look at. You know, if you look in the updates section of the site and look at the version for App Builder, if it's above 99, then you've already gotten the fix.
Got it. I'll check it.
And I'll illustrate that for anybody who's following along at home. Evidently, I haven't gone to that site yet today. Here, maybe I can do it in Campfire configuration. So in updates, overview, you have the app builder, and like this one is at 125.76. If this number says 101 or higher, then excuse me, 100 or higher, then you're good to go. And if for any reason, again, the only impact is you're not seeing hotfixes. I think if I installed all my hotfixes, I would get above. Get this update automatically. Let's see if I can blow up Campfire. We'll install these, and hopefully that'll get me beyond the rank. All right. So, any other first call?
I have one.
Yes.
So I did my appropriate research on an issue of wanting to confirm the confirm password. So I'm creating a little registration page and did the confirm password. I wasn't sure how to do it. Went on to YouTube, found a video that Patrick did that's exactly what I was looking for, which is great. So I went through that. I solved the password confirm problem very easy using the confirmation of field that's in there. But the beginning of it, Patrick, you said the bring up, you could do the same thing with confirming the email in case they get sloppy and they type in the email wrong, which I thought was a good idea. So I thought I would implement that as well based on that suggestion. I went into I followed the steps. It seemed maybe something changed since it was done, but what you put in a field of type email, and then you change it to text so that you still get the validation of email, but then you can put in a confirm email field below it, which all sounded good, but I'm not getting the validation anymore. Plus, I don't get the confirmation. So I'm confused. Is it something changed with how validation works from the time you did the video to now?
Possible. I'd have to go back and look at the video and remember it, because that was, I think, quite a while ago. Remember the exact steps I did, but it's possible something changed. Yeah.
Okay.
But you've piqued my curiosity, definitely.
Well, it certainly sounded like a good idea to have that mechanism. I was wondering, I don't see any validation you know, where it says validation 1, 2, et cetera, groups, there's no validation in there. Even when you select an email, when you go down to validation, I don't see anything there. Is there a misconfiguration with my system and there should be something there? Or is email just by nature of its field type doesn't have a validation listed there because it's built in that it's going to test for email format?
I believe that's correct. Yes. So the email field has validation on it, even though it doesn't show there. The email validation is happening
Got it.
because of the type of field it is. But you can add a text field and put an email validator on it as well.
But I don't see any email validator. I'm not sure exactly how to put one on. I guess that's really the question. But I thought that when you click on validator, that you would get a list of kinds of validators, like no spaces or alpha.
Correct. If you're not, then
That must be the problem, is that
there's
some configuration problem. I don't get that.
yeah, there's a definite problem on your system there if you're not getting this.
Okay.
So these come in the form of configuration files that exist as files on the file system, and so if you don't have them, it's a relatively easy thing to copy them out from an installation file and get them where they need to be. So easy enough to fix. I'd be interested what in the history of this system. Is this an older system that got upgraded, or
No, frankly, this is a fairly new one. I'm going in right now. I haven't been in there for a little while. I had to relog in, but double checking to see versions, etc. It is. Come on. Huh. 125.
and was created as 125?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, well, might if you submit a ticket, we'll be happy to help you.
Will do.
Yep. So I mean, since we're there, trying to think about the validation piece of this, we have you remember the technique that you might have been illustrating, Patrick? I mean, we want them to be equal, right? We've got two different emails, but then you want to add validation to say that they're equal.
If I did the same technique for password, and I can tell you that as you start typing in the password, or if you leave the password confirm field, you get the error immediately. It seems like the confirm of for the non-password is working differently. What you're showing us here.
And yep. So I would, it would be easy enough to put a check to say, are these two things the same? And
Yeah, expand the confirm email field again. Confirmation of, there it is. Yeah. And you're not getting a, you're not seeing the other.
Right. And in your video, that's where you explain that it doesn't show unless you change the email to a type of text.
Right. That's right. Yep. Yeah, it has to be a text box. Yep.
And then it'll show.
Yep.
And then this has a validation that is an email address. So we have two email addresses that are the same. And then this is a confirmation of email.
Ooh.
So you can force them to type things or copy and paste. That's what I always do. Yeah. So the technique is this confirm of, you can confirm two text box are equal.
And the version that you're using there for demonstration is 125?
Probably not. No, I think the system is at 124.
24, probably fine.
Probably fine.
So my issue is really I don't have that configuration file for validation. I'll put a ticket in and you can help me figure out how to get that in there. So fantastic. Thank you.
This is now it's just my curiosity digging in here. So I'm going to say turn these to no validations and just have two text fields that need to be the same. And see how they validate. They need to be the same.
So, and your point
up.
being there, Dale, that if you have email validation on the first field, then you don't necessarily need email validation on the confirm field because it has to match the first one.
That's one point. The place I was going to is if you were going to make somebody type a PIN and you wanted to make them type it twice, you could. It doesn't have to be an email or a password or anything. You can use it as to confirm. And
exactly.
Yep. All right. Cool. Good question.
If I am not taking up too much time, I have a second one that's right along the same lines. The same registration page has a display name. And what I'd love to be able to do is tell them that the display name is already in use before they register. Was wondering if there's a technique to do a database lookup on submit that would check the user table of display names. And if it's a match with what they asked for, give them an error.
Username exists. I'm not sure if display name does or not, though.
So yeah, for something like that, there's two techniques that are possible. So if there is a we don't username exists, email exists, username is available, but this is username, it's not display name, right? So,
right.
But these same configuration files that I was talking about and that we're going to update on your system, these are doing a SQL lookup as you leave the field and doing validation. And so you could manipulate one of these, like username is available, is going to have all the logic necessary. You could make a copy of that and call it display name is available.
Oh, wow.
Simple changes and it would appear here in your list. We've done custom validators, I think, as a low-code cafe topic, so we could look that up. And
awesome. That's a great place to put it.
And then, so that's kind of nice. It's nice interactive. It's a little bit of extra effort for you to build a validator, but you can do it. And then the thing that you said is also true, that on the submit, you could look at, take the value that they asked for, do a SQL lookup on the user table and validate it in code, in low code, and throw an error if it already exists. So.
Oh, okay. So let's say that's the first step. So I don't do a register user. I don't do a login user. The first thing I do is a SQL of users if the display name that they gave is equal to a display name in the table, like a count of. And if it doesn't, then display error message.
Yeah.
And then below that, all the rest of the logic in case everything worked well to.
Right, because once you display the error, everything's going to come to a full stop at that point.
Excellent. Yes, that'll work too.
Very, very straightforward. So doing it in code keeps you from having to do a validation, and it transports well as well.
Great,
Hey
thank
guys,
you.
With that said, Jerry here, custom validators. particularly when it relates to making a call out to SQL to check something out, is something that I do often. It's absolutely wonderful. Take a moment of your life and figure that out. The quick tutorial is, as Dale implied, go analyze the code for looking up a duplicate username, copy it into our custom validator into your own file and modify it and play with it. Because once you get that custom validator to work the way you intended, it's perfect. It absolutely is fantastic. And I do some very complex SQL queries to check and cross-reference and double check and make sure they have a blue-haired dog on Thursdays, whatever the combination is. The crazy stuff. And it just works wonderfully right there in the field as you leave the field. And so if you haven't done that, find our resources on it. And if I can ever help you with that, I'll be glad to teach you and give you a great example of how to do exactly what you want.
Thank you. That's great.
Those validators run in the context of the browser. They're not going back to the server to fire. So is that correct?
They do a round trip to the server.
But you still have ability when that round trip comes back, you're still on the form, and so you could
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, there we go. Custom action form validations. So this would be the video, a video that will cover that. Let me put that in chat. So the validator is going to just be return true or false with an error message, and you're not going to have any, you'll stay within the context of the form, but it's not an action stack, right? It's only it'll either pass or fail validation and nothing else is happening. Versus if you do it in the submit button, you can do your tests and do other things as well.
And to your point, it's not a post back, so it doesn't really reload the form. It's all happening inside the field that you're validating. And so if you were checking on a duplicate display name, as you're typing in the display name, it's checking this query that's running in the background. And the second it doesn't like what it sees, it would put up the little red error message, just like what you're seeing now. And until you satisfy that column, it's not going to move forward.
Does that mean that it's running the validator as you are typing?
It would appear so.
I think I have one here. So this is the validator that's based on user ID exists. So like a user ID number is 3, and if I put in a 4, which doesn't exist, we get this user ID does not exist. So first of all, in terms of setup of this, the user ID exists is just a text field that has very little on it, except that the validation is using user ID, the standard one, user ID exists by user ID. And then we can take a look at what it's doing by doing inspect. Let me dock this here at the bottom. Got Chrome. Oh, there it is. Okay, so on the network tab, if we type a user ID like 5, you'll see that it's calling out to validation. Sorry, I didn't mean to go there. It's going out to validation ASHX and passing passing a payload and getting a response. User exists by user ID, and it gets a response. So every time you type, you either get an error or not. So this one, it passes, and so it gives back a success true. Every character type is doing that. Make sense?
Yes, I think so.
Good.
In my case, I think I might want to not do it that way, although I can see the value of it in general to do that. I don't know if I'd want people to learn display names of, of other people as they're typing it. So, or for that matter, that they're, starting to type something in, and as soon as they hit something that's a match, like if the display name is John Smith, as soon as they type in John, and then there's 5 Johns in the system, then they get a, that it exists. I'm not sure if that's the experience that I'm looking for. I'd rather them type in the name and then click the button and then tell them that it already exists. Maybe that's better for me, but I see the value either way.
Yep, and as Jerry points out, it can be used for a ton of other things that.
True.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All right, so that's that. Find my way back here. Good. Anyone else with a first call? All right, we're on to submitted topics. Mark wants to start sending chat prompts to ChatGPT and wants to know about the tools that are available now. So in version 1.25, part of what's going to be included with that is like when you're using the new interface, for APIs or automations, the ability to start getting it to build SQL for you, but that's not what you're talking about. So you want to know how to have a conversation. There were these 2 recent low-code cafes that covered kind of both of those things. One is you can use a server request to go out and talk to ChatGPT. And Mark Roberts showed us that about a month ago, how to go about that. And then we added our, sorry, finding my way here. We added the OpenAI actions, and these are documented in our learn.plantonapp.com. Documentation actually generated by AI. Okay. But we have these main ones: chat, speech to text, and summarize content are the main ones. This is a helper action that lets you count tokens, because you need to know how to not overflow ChatGPT. It has some maximum number of tokens that it accepts. So I think in our case, it might be 8,000. And so by counting before you submit, you can know that, this is too big. We can't ask that big a question. So count tokens is a helper token. So these are the actions that we're adding. The OpenAI extension is built. It's not on the add-ons list. We're going to release this at a yet to be determined cost. So you might have a conversation with Bogdan about getting access to it if you want to use it in your environment. This is going to be one of the first things I believe that's available in our marketplace, which is soon to be released, and probably the topic of our low-code cafe on Wednesday. That the idea that there are things that you'll be able to add on. For right now, we'll be putting things in the marketplace, but I've mentioned it before. We want to make the marketplace available so that you can build a solution and put it in the marketplace and share that with or sell that to others. Do you want to see those at work, or is that the answer to your question?
If you had something that you could show, that would be helpful. But honestly, I think the answer that I was looking for was I would interact with ChatGPT using the server request. Does that sound right? That's where I submit.
Yeah, there's really two ways that you can. You directly by server request will get you there, and Mark demonstrated that cafe, and then our actions will let you do that too. And if you get access to the actions, then that's what I can demonstrate. So for example, this is a simple form that I've done that uses one of our actions. So we're giving it instructions to, these are the instructions that go to AI. This is a transcript of a meeting, and by processing it, it's going to summarize it. So the behind the scenes using our actions, the process button is going to have that. So the process button has actions. It's using, in this case, our summarize content action. So that's the one documented here. It takes an AI key, a model, instructions. Now I got to look and see. Give me a moment here to take a look and see. I don't want to have to blur this piece out, so I needed to get. This is the actual action that we're using, and I've modified this OpenAI key so it's not a real key, so it's not a security risk for us. So you provided a key, perhaps by way of a token, that is your OpenAI key.
Mm-hmm.
Tell it which of the available models you wanted to use. GPT 3.5 is faster and less expensive. GPT-4 is smarter currently. The instructions field that I was showing you a moment ago, the transcript field that I was showing you, and this particular action does a lot of work for you, because if you have a very large content that's bigger than that number of tokens that I was talking about earlier, this is going to split a hour-long transcript into smaller pieces and submit them individually as individual requests, and then pull back a final summary of the transaction. So this is where our actions do more work for you than what you could do with a server request by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We're telling it whether or not, what level of response that you want, because this is part of the instruction back to the way that we do the summarization. It can be brief or summarized. You can handle errors, and then the stuff that comes back gets stored in variables in tokens going back, and then we just do an update form. So all of the one action will do this transcript that we're talking about. And I have, let's see, I have one that I haven't transcribed here. This might be interesting. I have a recording, and it's an hour and 15 minutes long, so I'm not going to do the whole thing. Where is it here? I apologize, things get hidden and I can't see the screen.
Which account at ChatGPT is the right one to setup for this?
Okay.
Is it the plus?
Platform.openai.com would be where I would go. I think you can see if I can count, see what it tells me. We demonstrated that on that last one.
With Mark?
Sure.
Okay.
Or the one that we did as well that shows off our actions. But you're looking at this point. I think what is available is to general sign up. The last that I knew, this GPT 3.5 Turbo is the thing you're trying to get access to. I think GPT-4 is limited to you have to get approved for it. You have to apply for it, and if they agree that you have need for it, then they give it to you. It's just an early release thing, a beta. So, but the real it is leaps and bounds better. It's a bigger model, accepts more tokens, and so you can get lots of things. Transcript. Let's steal a transcript. It's I don't think it's a secret that I use GPT to take notes on the low-code Campfire. Today I'll be feeding the transcript of this meeting into the system and getting it to process it out. So let's find one here.
Is that putting in the timestamps as well?
Exactly. So if I go to last week's episode of Campfire, hello friends, and if you look here, you can show transcript, and so you get timings and I'll just do a short segment so we don't take up a bunch of time, but you can simply copy out the transcript is one way to do it, and put it into my tool here, wherever it was, and process it. And it should, in this case, it's asking for minutes and a list of action items and decisions. So let's see what we get back.
So those instructions you have, did you store those and you just recalled them for this purpose?
I did, and the instructions is really the place where you add value as a developer, right? Because you consider your particular case, and then what it is that you want to get out of it. And I think I've in the episode that I did recently, I was getting JSON out of it to, and I think you were there for that one, but you can ask. What I really want is, in this case, I asked for minutes of a meeting, but in that case, I was asking for a JSON structure that I could feed. So it was pulling information out of emails and giving me a very smart structure that I could easily use in my logic flow. So this tells me, I'm getting timings. We talked about pop-up windows and mail servers, and here we talked about at 6 minutes and 17 seconds in, we needed to we made a note that we want to check to see whether something was on our bug list. So
That is great that it pulled that out as an action item.
yeah.
It also seems to be aware that it didn't get the entire transcript because it says no decisions made during this portion of the meeting.
That's a good point. And so again, I know from experience that this size of this meeting and that I was an hour long, right? I know that I could probably process one about half an hour, maybe 25 minutes in one call, and then beyond that it gets too big. The number of tokens are too large. So our summarize action would divide that up into 2 or 3 chunks. You wouldn't have to worry about it, and then the result would come back. It would be a full result. It just takes longer than I want to do to demonstrate here. But,
and that next field there tells you how many chunks it divided it into to process.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely go back and review the previous videos. I know that some of the stuff, these capabilities have been released as hot fixes, and so I was curious if I had missed any. What was new?
Yep. The OpenAI items are available by request and possibly at a price. It's just this is not information that I have at the moment. So if you want those, I would engage me or Bogdan in a conversation. We'll find out, and it'll be publicly available when the marketplace comes out.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. All right, now we're at the empty slide portion of our meeting. Someone else? I have a little bit of news, not, I will do a reminder. We have a feature request segment of the community.plantonapp.com. And I know that Peter, who is, I didn't look, is Peter part of the meeting today? No. Peter, our product manager, has recently reviewed through the feature request, and so you're going to see some of these have been flipped to under consideration. We're trying to figure out where they fit in our next release and what things we can pull into our next release. So just a word of encouragement that we do look at these and try to incorporate them. And if I get information about things that are actually being pulled in, bring those to your attention. So I know the process is slow, but don't be dissuaded from, please do provide feature requests if it's something that's useful to the community, and the more useful it is, we'll incorporate it. We'll try. And there is this sponsor feature. If it's really important and you pay for it, we can move it right to the front of the line.
That's really nice that we have the ability to contribute in this way. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So anybody been working on anything interesting lately? Any new areas of the product? This is our dark corners segment. Oh, feature request. There it is, dark corners.
I mentioned that earlier this week, and at least one person on this call was involved in this, and Dale. But we rediscovered a dark corner in remembering what the action grid data source for the for the items that are loaded in the grid is, and it's action. What is it, Dale? I can't remember now. Selected. No, was it just ActionGridEntry? That's what it is. ActionGridEntry. So that's a handy thing to remember. If anybody's not familiar with that, if you're using, if you want to process a list from a listing, there's a list available to you called ActionGridEntry, which is all the items that are currently loaded into the listing.
Can you detect the selected items?
You can.
Selected items is a different one, and also with selected items you have some availability to run separate actions, because when you enable selection, remember you get the section where it has separate actions for each selected item. But if you don't have selected items, that's when it gets a little tricky. But there's a specific list available to you called ActionGridEntry, which will let you iterate through the list of items that are currently loaded in the grid. So if you filtered the listing, then you want to run actions on just the items that are available to you, that is the name of the list that you can use.
Is that something you could perhaps show? I don't want to put Dale on the spot, but that sounds very interesting.
That was the selling point, that the client or the viewer can filter first, and then you can run actions on what the resulting data set was.
So it's ActionGridEntry is the one, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's see if I know we were working on this, and see if I have one all ready to go. Otherwise, we'll just build it. Nope, let's build it.
No.
When you have to also put.
So I have a listing, and let's say that,
Kind of got to.
let's see, I'm gonna do this. All right. Try here. Oop. All right. So let's say that let's add some filtering to this so that we can say that we want to process on the filtered items. So on our last name, I am going to make that be filterable and save. And so now we have the ability to filter it by something. So the idea is that you want to process whatever it is that is viewable on the list. And so in this case, it would be, we want these four, you want to do something with these 4 user IDs. So let's see if I can make that happen. We can add a button that is on my filtering, unimaginatively named. And we are going to we're going to take advantage of ActionGridEntry, right? Wish this was better documented, but here we go. This is for each action in a list entry. Is this not the one that we
That's the one, yeah.
The list name is ActionGridEntry. Is this right? We're going to create an admin alert for each entry, and look great to you, Patrick.
Yeah.
See, I'm trying to get you to commit so that if it's wrong, then
Well, Patrick
Oh.
said it was right.
so we should, if this has done what we expect, the fact that we're filtering by this, we should get 36934. So I'll press the button, and now we have to go look at our log. So we get 36934. Yeah, that was
Wipe the sweat from my brow there. Yeah.
versus if we turn off this and look for Dale in search, we should get 23634. And
Is there a way to detect that you have some filtering enabled?
if you activate the URL synchronization, it would be on the query string, so you could pull it off of there.
Jim, what do you mean just by looking at the listing, or do you mean
No, I was just thinking like that log my filtering button.
yeah.
I could see an application where I don't want that enabled if they don't have something filtered.
To keep them from doing it on everything.
Right, to keep them from doing it on everything.
Right. So, for example, if we were to go with settings, sync with URL. Oh, it's already activated. So
Yeah, you have it activated.
So if we filter by this, we're going to say that filter last name is whether or not it's blank, right? So we should be able to conditionalize the button on that way. So give me a second. So I'm guessing that I can't directly do it here because well, it might work.
Yeah, go ahead and try it. Yeah.
Won't you have to refresh the grid in order for it to become aware to go look at that
Maybe.
URL again?
We'll try this first. So we'll actually start with process filtered listing, and we don't have a button. We activate some filtering. And yeah, it's not aware that something has changed. So you would, but once.
Yeah, I didn't, when you reloaded it right after you made the change, it wasn't there. So something's wrong with the condition. But it looks correct.
So this might not be the right spot for it. So we can try it here. So that, and we could get 54 if that worked. So yes, you can prevent them from firing through the logic if they haven't filtered. It's an interesting use case, but very useful. I mean, to summarize, you can have very complex filtering and searching all going on, and now that you've got it, maybe those are the records that you want to export. And so now your export button could operate based on that final filtered data set. So
and just a note on that, if you're exporting to a to an Excel file or CSV or something like that, the listing, that action will it magically just uses this list name without you having to specify it.
let's illustrate that. So I'm going to leave that alone, and we'll create a new button called export. Say create Excel from list, and we're not even going to give it a list name. We're just going to say that it's going to be called export file, and it's going to get an absolute URL that, so it does the export and then redirect URL and open that new tab. Go there. So just clicking the export button is going to, I don't know if I needed to do that, but anyway, here we go. So we have an export button, and this should give us everything. We have an export file that we can look at. And maybe I didn't give it any fields. Include all fields. There we go. So it got everything, all the, whether it was included or not, all, there were 25 records and it gave us all of them. Then if we filtered it by that, filtered list. So very nice dark corner. Glad that you brought that up. And then just as a reminder, the two things that we learned, that when you do something like anything that processes a list, that leaving the list name blank just shows whatever the grid is set up to do, and so you can just magically get that content. And the other one was, if you want to process what's in the grid, you can just treat it as a list, and it has a list name of ActionGridEntry. It doesn't happen magically. You have to know it's ActionGridEntry. And
so Dale,
yes.
that back to the list name, that didn't have anything to do with your button name, correct?
Correct. This is a magic name.
Magic. Okay. Thank you.
And so the magic names that are available are ActionGridEntry, which is everything in the grid, ActionGridEntry : selected, everything that's selected out of the grid, and updated ActionGridEntry. This would be what if you're using the grid with edit mode, that these are the ones that got updated.
Yeah, that sounds correct.
So cool. All right, we've crashed into our stop time and gone by it. So I'm going to call a stop for today. We will do this again next week, same hour. And glad that you participated today and asked great questions. And then if you want to hang around, we're going to open a virtual beverage here in our afterglow segment. So that'll start in just a minute.